Hello, if you've been here before, welcome back. If not, hi, my name is David. I make videos talking about media that I want to talk about. This is my reading wrap-up for the month of October. I'm joined today by Chiquita Banana from last month, and joining Chiquita is second cousin, I guess, Cinnasnail, which I got from my boyfriend gave me. It's a Bug Snacks plush for my birthday that just happened, and can you hear that? Those eyeballs are gonna fall off. Cinnasnail, cinnamon snail, Cinnasnail is how it is in the video game. Is a second cousin to the slug that is the banana slug that is Chiquita. Next month we will see the other friend that my boyfriend got me for my birthday, which is another Bug Snacks. So if you know about Bug Snacks, they're so cute. Anyways, I read 13 books this past month. It's been a long month. Looking at the first few books that I have, I'm like, oh, Jesus, that's a long time ago. So I'll try my best to not ramble as much for some of these. And it is a very varied month. I do have some high highs and some pretty lows. I think that I've had better reading months, but the sheer quantity of it was also pretty good. It was mostly quantity over quality, I will have to say, unfortunately. But yeah, let's get into it. The first two books that I read this month were me wanting to revisit some of the books that I have on these shelves. When I moved, there's so much more books that I could place on these shelves that I'm like, oh, I haven't even touched these in more than I started keeping track of books when I read them and stuff, like the year at least in 2020. And some of these have been here since before high school or since high school, which was I graduated in 2019. So there's these first two were books that I wanted to revisit that I read when I was in high school. The first one is Hero by Perry Moore. Hero by Perry Moore is about a young guy who's in like late high school, who's gay, and his father is homophobic. Also, his father is a retired superhero and does not like superhero things, and this guy who's gay is also having powers and signing up to be part of the superhero team and stuff like that, and his father doesn't like that either. And so it's a double whammy of two things that he cannot talk to about his father about. This was 3 out of 5. Not for me anymore. This was really good for me when I was in high school. I remember that. I remember reading this and being like, you know what? This really teaches me a lot about the gay experience. Reading it now, not for me anymore. I will be donating this book to the library, so another little gay kid will get his hands on this and read it and be like, you know, this is me. But I don't need that anymore because I already know who I am. It's a 3 out of 5 for me. It was fine. I think that YA stories tend to exaggerate characters, and this is another example of characters in general that are very exaggerated. It is a product of its time, and there were some things that happened that were kind of odd, and I was like, in this time and age, it's not correct to do this, or it would be kind of rude or stuff like that. I didn't like the ending. The ending was very rushed, and the pacing felt really like it built. The pacing was fine, but when it got to the very end, I felt like it was very rushed, and I didn't quite like that. And it is just another superhero story. It's not trying to critique anything. It's just within the superhero world, and there's so many other stories that critique superheroes. And this is just part of the whole like body of work of superhero stories. So it's not trying to critique it, it's just part of it. I did feel like it was trying to say something about gender, about race, about sexuality, but everything just landed flat because nothing really, the main story didn't deal with any of those conflicts. And it was sort of like, hey, what if Superman was bad? Now, I mean, I guess that is a critique of superhero stories, but like, there's so many other "what if Superman was bad" type stories. So it's like it was fine. It's not for me. 3 out of 5. It was written pretty fine, but yeah, I started this month off kind of rocky with this one. And the next book helped with that rocky start. This is the second book of the books that I want to visit that I have not touched in a hot minute. And it's The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. So I think we all are familiar with The Book Thief. It is in the point of view of death, as they talk about Liesel, who is a young German girl, is living in Germany during World War II. And her adopted family takes in a Jewish man and hides him in the basement hides him from Nazi Germany. I remember reading this in high school and sobbing, and I sobbed again. It's very rare for me to be so emotional about a book, and this one was just so good. It was so, I would say 4.5 out of 5 for me. The 0.5 left to make it a 5 stars is that it is a coming of age story, and I don't enjoy coming of age stories. I should have mentioned that for Hero as well. I don't enjoy coming of age stories anymore. I think coming of age stories are really important for people who are coming of age, kids who are coming of age, and I just don't really enjoy that. I don't think that they're bad, I just don't enjoy them. So yeah, the 0.5 to get it to 5 is because it's not my type of story, and again, it's not for me. But it's nearly perfect, and it has some amazing characters that were very sublime compared to Hero's characters. I'm comparing both of them because they were high school reads that I read, and I think it's unfair to compare them, but also I don't care. The Book Thief was so good, and it had the added level of having in a really interesting point of view and framing device, because it is, like I said, death talking about. However, it is also structured in different ways and interjects moments of the prose with, like, I don't even know how to describe it, like little interjections that say something, and they vary in terms of what it's trying to do, but I think it's mostly just so you can pay attention to what is being said, that this is an important thing that is being said. And so I think that's why those are there, but it was really well implemented. They were intrusive but not distracting. It was part of the entire story, specifically because the story begins with a lot of these sort of guiding you into the storytelling way of the story. It's also a really important story to read as well. It teaches about World War II, and it was one of the first books that I read that talked about the Second World War and the atrocities that occurred. And reading it right now, or like my sensibility right now, seeing how the atrocities of Nazi Germany are delivered in the prose makes me think of, how did I even conceive of this when I was younger? How it's so heavy, it's so intense. Like reading it just now at my age, it was hard. It was very difficult, and I could not imagine how I conceived of that when I read it when I was younger. And so I think it's a very important story to tell, because it's delivering the injustices of that time through the eyes of Liesel, who is a young girl. I think she was like, it ranged between 10 and 14, I believe it was. And I'm going to give this book to my sister. In fact, actually, because if you've been here before, I've talked about giving some books to my sister who's younger than me, 13 years younger than I. This is the copy that I was actually reading. This is a copy I've had since high school. And it's the TV copy, obviously. It has little like pictures from the TV. But everything inside the book is the same in both. But I was like, I want to have a copy for myself, and I want to give a copy to my sister. So I just bought a second copy. And when it arrived, it was this cover. And I was going to do this one, but it has annotations inside. So I kept the one that had annotations inside, and I'm just giving her the one that's pristine and clean, because I don't want her to be distracted when she's reading. A lot of times I buy books resold from used booksellers, like thrift books mostly. And a lot of times, or I don't want to say a lot of times, but like every once in a while, they give me a book that has already been owned, one, obviously, and two, has been annotated by somebody. And it feels so cool to see what this random person thought about when reading this book, and they had to like write it down. This one doesn't have that many. I'm trying to find examples. This one doesn't have that many, but you can definitely tell them trying to work through. Can you see that? Yeah, the story and understand it better. And so every once in a while, I get a book that was annotated. Phil K. Dick. My copy of The Man in the High Castle was almost fully annotated, and it actually helped me understand the story in of itself. So, like annotations within The Man in the High Castle, which was I bought from thrift books. So yeah, just a little tangent about uh, getting these resold books that have people's annotations. They're really fun. So the next, what, 7 books are books that I had gotten because it was National Day of Reading or something like that in the middle of the summer, I think. And I just bought a bunch of them. I just bought a bunch of books that I had on my list that I wanted to read. And so this is the first of that, and the next 6, 7, I think, are that. I'll Be Right Back by Kyung-Sook Shin, translated by Sora Kim Russell. It is about a group of Korean students in Seoul in the 1980s in the middle of student revolutions that were happening at that time, and it's dealing with their relationships together. And so I have read one of my favorite books is written by Kyung-Sook Shin. Hold on a second. Please Look After Mom, one of the best books I've ever read. I have a video talking about why am I off frame and talking still. I have a video that is talking about Please Look After Mom, so if you want to check that out, please do. I had a lot of fun with that. Kyung-Sook Shin is an amazing author, Korean author, and all of her work is written in Korean and then translated by someone else. And I wanted to read more of her stuff, and this was the second book that I read of her, and I didn't enjoy it. It was a 3.5 for me. Well, I say I didn't enjoy it, but it didn't reach the highs of Please Look After Mom, which is why I was disappointed with it. But 3.5 is not bad at all. My general critique is that it is about these students set during these student revolutions, but it's not affecting the plot in and of itself. It is just about these students set during that time, but the setting doesn't really affect them. I wanted to read this because I thought it was going to teach me about this time period. I didn't really learn that much, but it is still just a great series of vignettes. However, I don't think it's supposed to be that. I think it's supposed to have a plot. I think it's supposed to have a structure, but it just felt like slightly disconnected vignettes between characters telling each other things or remembering things or stuff like that. The prose was not my favorite, which was very surprising because I really like the prose in Please Look After Mom. And so I think this is a great example, and I'll talk about it later. But this is an example of a translator affecting the story of the same author. And so I'll talk about it a little later because, spoiler alert, I have a third Kyung-Sook Shin book to talk about. So I'll talk about translators there. But yeah, this story sort of meandered at times and didn't really head anywhere. We're just going through the motions, and then at times went really fast. And overall, it just sort of was contemplative and fine. I was disappointed in it because I know that Kyung-Sook Shin can write really well, or I could feel the same emotions Kyung-Sook Shin writes in this story, but the prose was not my favorite. This was through and through a Kyung-Sook Shin book, but not one of my favorites, unfortunately. The next book that I read is not part of the group of books that I got for National Book Day. It just happened to finish it because it was an audiobook that was coming out. Again, it's Animorphs. It's specifically book 37, The Weakness. And this one's a 4 out of 5. It was a pretty good story. It's a great breakdown of character archetypes because the Animorphs, 6 characters in a team working together to fight aliens, Yerks. The leader of the group, Jake, is away on vacation with his parents. And that leaves the rest of them to their own devices. And the main point of view character is Rachel, who is the sort of like the muscle of the group if we're going to do the 5-man archetype, 5-man band archetype. And she takes on the mantle of leader to do missions, and things start going wrong. And so it's a great breakdown of these archetypes and why they work when they're simplified like this, and how good these characters are built and set up and written in some books. This book, I think they were well written. Last book, I don't think they were, but that was because it was different. What's it called? Ghostwriters? I forget the ghostwriter for this. K. Applegate, though, framed out what the story is, so I'm still saying it's K. Applegate here. This one is also notable because they crashed a plane into a building. This story was published January of 2001. So, and also I read it right after I started reading it mid-September because it's an audiobook. And as we know, Audiomorphs on Spotify is releasing weekly episodes of the Animorphs audiobooks. And so it took some time for me to finish this book. But yeah, it was good. It was a good entry. And I really liked Rachel's writing. She really struggled through a lot to be a leader and facing failure. And it does teach how to deal with failure and how to interact with your group and team building and stuff like that. It was a fine story. It was really good. It's a 4 out of 5. Now, continuing the books that I got from National Book Day, the next book that I read was Innate Magic by Shannon Fay. This viewer at home was a 5 out of 5. It's one of the best books that I've read this month. Spoiler alert, there are 3 5 out of 5 books in October, which these are the highs of this month. And this started it off in a really, really fun way. And so I didn't know what to expect, or I expected something else when I went into the book and got something else, and was very much happy with what I got. So in this world, it's post-war London, 1950s London, and in this world, there is magic that can be done to objects. And Paul, the main character, is learning how to do this magic on clothing. It's cloth mages, right? Yeah, cloth mages. And he just graduated from that, and he's trying to get jobs. He's working with his best friend Thomas to get jobs from this, and he decides to try to get into the head mage. What's it called? The court magician, who can do innate magic. Innate magic is magic that you can just do without needing a conduit, and that is illegal. However, Paul can do innate magic. And the fun part is that the magic system is the way you can even channel magic in the first place is by breaking bones. And that's really fun. So, for example, for cloth mages, you have to break. They talked about 2 different. There's also they reverse engineered phones, iPhones. They're called books. It's magical books. It's like a little tablet, basically. They reverse engineered iPhones. Really kind of stupid, kind of fun. But they talk about making magic with bookbinding and making magic with cloth mages. And I think you have to break the humerus. Yeah, you have to break the humerus for the bookbinding, and you have to break I forget what this bone is, for cloth mages. And depending on what bone you break and who is breaking your bone, you can do magic. It's a very dream logic-y type of magic system that I really, really enjoyed, because the actual idea of breaking your bones to be able to do magic contrasts against the somewhat whimsical, comedic tone of Paul himself as a character, who's an amazing character. And also there is some espionage and some, not espionage, sorry, what's the term? Conspiracy, that's it. Criminal conspiracy that is being uncovered as well. That has also another tone to it. And then there's the really dark tone of the magic system. That all of these three different tones would, to me, clash. But it really, really worked here because each of those parts of the story, Paul's central storyline and the things he does, his interactions with an American reporter trying to uncover a criminal conspiracy, and also learning about the magic system and engaging with this man who wants to do some illegal magic. All of that is handled with the severity that it needs, the seriousness that it needs to work well together. And I'm really, really happy with that. Paul is an amazing character. When I read the synopsis of the book, that made me want to read this, it was that he's bisexual and that he starts having a relationship with this man who begins to threaten this American reporter that he befriends, right? And so there was like that triangle there, not love triangle, but like the triangle of relationships. So like, oh, Paul likes the guy, but the guy wants to hurt the journalist, and Paul's friends with the journalist, so that's going to cause issues. It wasn't that. I think that the description of the story and the blurb doesn't explain it fully, because at the end of the day, the guy that he likes is not anything. He's the main antagonist, but it's not a romantic thing at all, and it's not a romance. I thought it was a romance with like things attached to it, but it's not. And I compare it also to a book that I expected more from and did not get that. A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsk. Yeah. And this is also magical boys in London. It's set in the 80s, 1800s, sorry. And I didn't quite enjoy how it all implemented. So these two stories to me are very comparable in that it is queer boys in London. But Innate Magic focused on one individual boy, while A Marvelous Light focused on a relationship between two of them. But I don't think that the world building and the magic system here is very fun. Innate Magic was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And it's so much better than A Marvelous Light. So, like what I was talking about with the three different tones, that means the plot is very complex as well, but it was good. It was really well interwoven. And there was a lot of plot threads that ended in ways that I didn't quite enjoy, but felt right to the story. And I know that there is I bought the second book. I bought the second book because I wanted to read it. Where is it? I knew that I wanted to read the sequel, so I bought it, and it looks so pretty. And yeah, honestly, let me stop talking off frame. Sorry, I get really excited when I get off frame. But yeah, it was. I really liked Paul himself. He's very naive, but he's very charming as well, and his dilemmas throughout. My favorite character was Thomas, his kid brother, who is he was like a street urchin slash criminal that stopped when he got into school, and so he's very street smarts and also really heartfelt. And I really liked Thomas, and I felt really bad with how things went between him and Paul. And I'm resisting from trying to ship them together because they are kid brothers. But I do really like their interactions and their relationships. You can really feel the brotherhood between them. And then Paul's relationship with the American journalist is also really fun as well. All the characters are amazing, and so I needed to buy the sequel so I can read it when I get to it eventually. So yeah, 5 out of 5 for me. One of the best this month. The next National Day of book that I got was The Sorcerer of the Wildeeps by Ashante Wilson. It is a novella that is 3 out of 5 for me. Fine, good, dense. Some novellas that I've read, I have not read that many, but some of them, the prose is very, very dense, and I don't quite enjoy that. The style of it was also somewhat difficult. I found myself not not being able to pay attention at times, and it's just a style of writing that I don't quite enjoy. The speculative elements really fun. So the sorcerer of the Wildeeps is a sorcerer who is in this world that I don't know if it's a post-apocalypse or just a different world. I'm not fully sure about that. I'm leaning toward post-apocalypse because of some things. I'll get to that in a second. And he is helping his lover slash captain of a group of warriors traverse through the wildlands to get to a trading spot. And he's magical because he and his captain, his lover, are descendants from gods that left the world. However, these gods that they keep talking about, he knows and his captain knows, are just humans that left on spaceships. And so it feels to me like it's a post-apocalypse, and they left behind people who knew about technology, who knew about genetics, and so these men, including him, men and women, including him and the captain, are enhanced physically, mentally, spiritually. He can do magic and stuff like that, compared to the other just mundane people around who don't have any of that. But it was really interesting elements of magic that he was doing, and it felt like a mixture of like sci-fi elements and like fantasy elements, and that was kind of fun. The dialogue, the dialogue mixed languages. So it's all said in English, but then there's moments where the characters speak in French or in Spanish, and it's not really explained. And that to me felt like it was a sort of like post-apocalypse because cultures mixed together. Not fully sure exactly why. But overall, I didn't quite enjoy the story, but I think it's just not a story for me. I did like the romance, I did like the speculative elements, but I feel like the writing style overall, I didn't quite like. And so it's a 3 out of 5 for me. It's a pretty fine story. The next book I read was The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd. I bought this resold. It is a book of the month option from, was it March 2022, and I can sort of see why they gave it away, but it was fine. It's a 3 out of 5 for me. So this is about Nell, who is a young woman who was ostracized from the map making academic community by her father, and 7 years later her father is found dead, and in his secret compartment in a desk she finds a map that was the center of why she was kicked out of the academic world of map making. It's all about maps, cartographers. And she starts on this like rabbit hole trying to discover why this map means so much when it's simply just a gas station map. Because normally dealing with maps and stuff, it's like old stuff or really interesting different types of maps, but this is just a commercially made map. I don't know what this is about, is what she's saying. She finds out why, and yeah, this is fine. I just could not help but wish that I was reading a better book that does things better. This is a combination, to me, felt like a combination of 100 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil in terms of how it's told. The prose goes from within Nell's perspective, and then she meets a character, and the character's telling a story. And so it's like the present and the past storylines intermingle, sort of like Bury Our Bones by V.E. Schwab. National Treasure, 39 Clues, those types of stories, trying to discover something right in front of our eyes. Theodora Goss's Letters from an Imaginary Country, specifically Pelargonia, but there's been other ones about imaginary countries, stuff like that. All of those stories do what this book is trying to do, but slightly better. And so I just felt like throughout it all, I was just like, I want to be reading 100 Lords of January instead of this book, because the thematic and emotional beats of that book are very similar to this book. And so I just there are better books that is trying to do the same thing here. With that, a dual storyline, I really much preferred the past storyline, because there was 6 characters that that the storyline is about, and they were a lot more interesting than the main 2 characters in the present storyline. And I preferred listening to the past storyline more. The characters were all pretty good, at least. I mean, Nell and the guy that she's with, I forget his name. I'm so sorry. Fine. The rest of them were pretty good. The antagonist sucked. I did not worry about this antagonist. This antagonist was boring to me. I didn't feel anything from him. He was just a guy with a gun who was also rich. And it's like, I don't care. He's not interesting. He's not compelling. You could tell a mile away who it was going to be. That's the other thing, too. There's so many things here that I was like, I can tell exactly what this is going to be. And it was. There's only one prediction that I had that did not come true. But every other thing that I said, what I thought was going to be correct. Oh! Microphone didn't like being talked to like that. But yeah, I think that this was a fine book, and I can. I liked it. I liked reading it, but I felt like I wanted to read a better book at the same time. I think what it wants to do is it does well. It talks a lot about maps and how the magic system is that if you make a map with a fake location, it comes true. But it doesn't really push that idea further than the gas station map and like 2 other maps. I feel like it could do more with it. The magic system, I felt, could have been more utilized. The magical realism. But what it was fine. Also, the pictures and the maps were like very low quality, and so I was like, can we get better quality pictures of maps? How many books have maps in the beginning of their stories, and they look so much better than whatever you're trying to show me here? Like, come on. And the last book of the books that I got from National Book Day is The Court Dancer by Kyung-Sook Shin. 5 out of 5 for me. Loved this book so much. This is about Yi-jin, who is a court dancer in the Korean royal palace in the this is pre-World War One, late 1800s, 1880s. It's set during Belle Epoque, France, Paris, which is 100 years after the French Revolution, so like 1878, 1880s. Yeah, that's it. That's correct. And it's this court dancer falls in love with a French diplomat, and they marry and move to Paris. And she spends some time there before returning back to Korea, and is trying to reconnect with the queen that she was working with, or she was what. Conscripted. Well, I don't. She was a court dancer for the queen. Yeah. And this is a great romantic historical fiction in that it is both a romance. I really enjoyed the romance, and I really liked Victor, the French diplomat. It does end in tragedy. It's a tragic romance as well, but it was really well written throughout the entire way. I felt the romance, I felt the love, and it didn't feel bad at all. Like, these were 2 characters that I would totally totally wanted to see together, totally see to be together. And when it doesn't work out, it is very sad. And it's not sort of like, oh, this guy's trying to trap her, or selling her, or being sold or bought or whatever. No, this is like true actual romance, and I was really happy with that. It's also romantic because it sort of romanticizes the time period, but also it breaks down that romanticization as well, because Ji Yin, when she's in Paris, begins to learn about colonialism and imperialism, because they don't really know about that at that time, or at least she didn't. And she begins to see that, and like they go to the Louvre. This was a week before the Louvre got broken into. And when I read this, it was a week. And she's like, why is this specific art piece here and not where it should be? And then she learns about the other European countries and their interactions with Korea, Japan, and China, and what they've done to them as well. Because she's known about Western European influence, but like what they're doing, she begins to learn more about that. So it begins to break down the romanticism of that time as well. Sublime writing as well. So translators: Anton Her, Sora Kim Russell, and then Please Look After Mom. Kyung-Sook Shin's translator was, I have it in my, I knew it. The translator was Chi Young Kim. So all of the three books, Kyung-Sook Shin shines in her emotion and storytelling and story building. The way that the stories are built and the way that they are unfolding, it's very Kyung-Sook Shin. I can see the similarities in a lot of them. And I would say, she probably does take different techniques in writing when she's writing different types of stories. However, the prose felt very different in each of the three ones, depending on the translator. In Sora Kim Russell's translation, the prose felt slightly stunted at times and slower, and I didn't quite enjoy that. The Court Dancers, the prose was smooth and sort of graceful, and Please Look After Mom is very utilitarian, yet very simple, and it helped deliver the emotion of Please Look After Mom. Court Dancers' prose helped deliver the romanticism of the time. And there's moments in the story that interjects with small little idioms or small little sayings of folklore or advice or turns of phrases that comment on what is happening in that moment. And it feels sort of like it's all within the point of view of Ji Yin. It dives into other points of view as well, but it feels like those characters are thinking that at the same time without even saying it. It's part of the prose, and it just feels so sublime. And it was really interesting to see the differences in translation of the same author and how the writing differs from that, because the translator has a very tough job of not only directly translating the story, but also trying to deliver how it's being said to a different language, while keeping it true to the original language. I read a lot about this in Babel, R.F. Kuang. And I think that Anton Her is probably the best translator that I've had. Or I can't say that he's the best one because I don't know Korean. However, compared to the three different types of stories, I think Anton Her did the best to deliver the story how Kyung-Sook Shin would have wanted. I think that Anton Her and Chi Young Kim, really good translators. I'm sorry, Kim Russell, I didn't quite enjoy yours. So, yeah. But anyways, 5 out of 5 for me. I loved this story, loved this romance, loved it, the historical period. I don't think I've read any stories set during this same time period, and so it was really, really well delivered, this setting. So I was really happy with it. And I was also happy that this is the third Kyung-Sook Shin book that I really thoroughly enjoyed. Now, the next few books are just sort of random books that I read. I read The Girl Who Fell from the Sky by Victoria Forster, which is the third book in the Piper McCloud series that I've been reading. Young children's series about Piper McCloud, the first book being, what's it called? The Girl Who Could Fly. This is the third book. I thought this was going to be the end of a trilogy, but it's not a trilogy, I guess, because it doesn't end well, or if it is, then I don't like how it ended. So for me, it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I think that the plot and conflict were meh. I didn't like them that much, but they were still well written. I think there were some plot threads that were not continued from the second book that I really enjoyed. The second book was really, really good. Those plot threads did not continue into this book, and I thought this book was the last book of a trilogy, but it's not. But I haven't heard anything about a fourth book. The extra character writing was fine. Piper, the main character, shines in this book because she loses her powers. The girl who fell from the sky. We are introduced where we have characters that we've met prior, but they are fleshed out, locals within Piper's town. I think that they were well written, but the other kids that are in her group, her main group, suffer because of this, unfortunately. I'm going back and forth. I'm going to say it's a 2.5, unfortunately. I think about this and think about how it was written. It was well written. I just didn't like it. And I don't think it's a good conclusion to this trilogy, if it is a trilogy. But if it's not a trilogy, it's the four. The first book came out in 2008 and was reprinted in 2010. I looked at this so I could do this. Girl Who Could Fly was reprinted with this new art style in 2010. The second book, The Boy Who Knew Everything, that I read last month, was published in 2015. This book was published in 2020. So that's 5 years between each book, which means that if there's going to be a fourth book, Victoria Forster has 2 months to release it before the end of the year to keep with the 5-year intervals. If not, yay, I guess. At least I finished the series and I can move on from it. I got this book from the library, and it was a fine little series here. I liked the first book and I loved the second book. This third book was not it. It's a 2.5. The next book that I read is also a continuation, which is Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth, book number 4. We're getting close to the end. I will be continuing into Heroes of Olympus, Kane Chronicles, etc. But yeah, this is a 4 out of 5 for me. I remember this being one of my favorite books when I was first reading it, and true, yeah, this was the best book so far of the series. It's a 4 out of 5. It's a great escalation, the best story yet, as things are starting to ramp up for Percy and our characters. He is learning so much, and the relationships are evolving and changing and growing, and it felt so natural and so good. And my thing with the past books, say for example, Lightning Thief and Sea of Monsters, the quest felt haphazardly built together, and it didn't really feel like anything made sense. But here, almost everything that happens makes sense and builds together well. Similarly to Titan's Curse. Titan's Curse was a little less haphazard, but still slightly. This one, it's all within, obviously, the labyrinth, and that works. Same with Titan's Curse, the new characters, that being Rachel Elizabeth Dare and Daedalus / Quintus. Really, really well implemented, really great characters. I was really happy that Tyson got to shine a bit more in this series compared to the past few moments. Grover was very well written as well compared to Titan's Curse. And I think that everything just flowed very well, and I was really happy with that. And I'm really excited to get to the very end of this first series and continue rereading the Percy Jackson series. So I can actually be like, yeah, this series was fine. It's fine. I think that it's great for children. It's great for young adults. I'm really excited for the TV show. The next book that I read was the Book of the Month pick for October, and that is The Haunting of Payne Hollow by Kelley Armstrong. I've only read one short story by Kelley Armstrong in the Best Horror of the Year Volume 8, which was We Are All Monsters. It's the first book in Kelley Armstrong, and I liked it. It was good. This book, fine. A very begrudgingly fine, because I wanted to be better, but it wasn't, but also it was fine. It needed more intense atmosphere. So it's about This story is about a woman who had, when she was younger, had discovered her father burying the body of a child that he killed, and that affected her life. And now, as she's older, her grandfather, her father's father, who is a hateful man, uh, died and left in his will the beach house where they lived in for some time before her father was arrested and committed suicide. Uh, and she has to stay, as per the will, she has to stay in that house for at least for a whole month before it goes to her name, and then she can sell it for like a crap ton of money. But it's haunted. Hey, it's haunted. As you can see with the horse here, it is drawing from the, oh my god, Sleepy Hollow. That's it. Haunting of Sleepy Hollow. The characters in the story are like, yeah, the author of that book was inspired by Sleepy Hollow, by Payne's Hollow to write Sleepy Hollow, and it's treated like a joke in the story. It's fine. It's so fine. It's so fine. I wanted more. I really liked the relationship between the main character and her aunt, who is her best friend. But the payoff is not there, and it was like that was a really interesting, different type of relationship that I would witness in horror movies and in horror media, and so I really liked how that started. But in the end, it didn't pay off. And thankfully, I was so grateful that there wasn't a shoehorned romance in here, but it was so close to that. And overall, I just found myself bored with this story. I did read it in one day because it was so slow at work, and it's a pretty short book. And so it wasn't that scary, but it was still horror. Just because I wasn't scared doesn't mean it was not horror, because some of the things in there are pretty horror forward. I just needed more. I just needed better. I've read better, unfortunately. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This was the book of the month pick, and it was disappointing, but well made, competent, etc. It was fine. The next book that I read is Network Effect by Martha Wells. This is book 5 of the Murderbot Diaries. It is a 5 out of 5 for me. This series has been so good. I've been reading the omnibuses. I've read volume 1 and 2. I know that book 6 takes place before book 5, but book 5 was published before book 6. I don't know why. I don't. But I am fine with that. I have the volume 3 ready to go sometime soon. But I really enjoyed this series, this book specifically, because of the size of it. Most of the novellas are between 150 to 200 pages. And so this book had a lot more space to explore the same types of things that those past 4 books did. And my favorite part was that this was a sort of narrowing point of different elements from the different books prior. Specifically, I really like that Murderbot is once more interacting with art, or the perihelion, or Perry, as we learn. And they are really, it's a really fun relationship. That's not a relationship. It's not romantic. It's not a friendship. But they're friends. They're friends, and robots are weird but really fun. And so the story is that Murderbot is working with the crew that it worked with in the first book. It came back to their world and is a free robot now, basically, in all but name. And it is accompanying a group of them on a survey, specifically with the young daughter of Dr. Mensa, who is Murderbot's guardian and best friend, and it wants to make sure that she survives. And then they're picked up accidentally by the puppeted body of the ship that is the perihelion, or art. and Murderbot has to try to figure out what is happening. Who are these strange people inside Art's body? Is Art dead or what? And then they discover a disconnected community, a disconnected civilization on a planet, and have to deal with that. This is a culmination of a lot of the discussions around alien tech and what it can do and the dangers of it as well, and I was really happy with that. Art is one of my favorite characters in Murderbot. Murderbot is also one of my favorite characters, and so their interactions are so fun. And then Amina or Amena, I'm not fully sure, I believe it's Amina, who is the daughter of Dr. Mensha, is a really great character as well. And Thiago was also a really fun character. I did not like him, but I loved him. You know what I mean? And really excited to dive into Volume 3, which will dive into events that happened a little before this book and then directly after this book ends. Because this book ends, it's not a cliffhanger per se, but it's definitely like, oh, we're in continuation. I believe an 8th book is coming out at some point. I'm not sure about that. I haven't looked into that because I haven't gotten to that point. But I was really happy with this series. This series has been going pretty well. I think the 2nd book is my favorite. 1st, 4th, 3rd in that order. And then 5th, the very top. Very top. But they're all pretty like close together in terms of rankings. But yeah, this was a really successful entry into this series for me. The very last book that I read this month that I literally just finished a few hours ago. This month ended not good. Not good. Anji Kills a King by Evan Leikam. It's 2.5 out of 5 for me. So I will have to say, preface this, that I am biased. There is some bias against this book already on my part. So take my criticism with a grain of salt. I'm trying to critique it normally, but also I'm a little angry about this book personally. But that's a personal thing. So a little backstory. I was a part of this book club for this bookstore that I was really excited to do. I read Emily Wilde's encyclopedia for that book club. I read The Tainted Cup for that book club. And I was wanting to keep going there and make some friends. I don't have any friends that much. And so I wanted to keep going to that. And so the next book club was supposed to be, after Emily Wilde was supposed to be, I can't pull it out right now. The Devils, Joe Abercrombie, was supposed to be the next book club pick. And I was really excited for it because I've heard a lot of good things about The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. I had bought it for the book club. And then I went in, specifically, I do remember specifically going into the bookstore to buy volume 2 of, or I think it was this copy. Yeah, this copy of Network Effect. And I went to the bookstore and I was like, I'm so excited for the book club. And the girl there who was working there, I knew her from the book club. And she was like, did you hear that we changed the book? And I said, what? What do you mean? You changed the book? And she said, yeah, some of the people of the book club read The Devils or were reading it and didn't finish it, but they're like, I don't like that so much. So they decided to change it to Anji Kills a King. And I was like, all right, it's fine, I guess. I'll pre-order it. I still want to read Devils, so I'll still keep it and read it. Read it, liked it a lot. Liked Devils a lot. And it's just now that I'm getting to Anji Kills the King. Pre-ordered the book. The book would not arrive for a hot minute. And I wanted to read the book the weekend before the book club itself, which is on a Tuesday. And the weekend came and went. And I was like, crap, I'm not going to be able to come to this book club because I don't have the book. And then I check again on the social media, and they rescheduled the book club because their order of a bunch of Anji Kills the Kings hadn't arrived in time. Because we had a set book club that we were going to do, a set books, and we had all the books already. Oh no, we're changing it now, so we have to order a bunch of new books and wait till they get there. And so the book club was scheduled into the next week. And lo and behold, the next week's I started classes, and I have a class at the same time as that book club. So I could not go to that book club anymore. And so that means that Anji kills a king made me now have friends. Maybe. I don't know. That's a stretch. But I definitely screwed up my book club schedule because I would have had at least one book club before classes start. But no, it didn't happen. And I was like, whatever. I pre-ordered the book. I'm still gonna read it. I've heard some good things about it. Um, yeah, it's a 2.5 out of 5 for me. I am trying not to be super unbiased against, or yeah, I'm trying not to be biased against it. There are some issues with it that I'm not enjoying, and mainly it's because I am just comparing it to The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. I think that the strengths of The Devils, summarized, great characters, plot very simple, setting, world building amazing, but the plot was fine. Switch all of that over for Anji Kills King. I think the plot was really good here. I really enjoyed the plot. I tried not to. I tried not liking the plot, but the plot was really enticing. The rest of them, the characters, the world building, the setting, no. So it's about Anji who kills a king. All right, thank you. No, Anji kills a king, and she runs away. And there's a group of mercenaries that are men and women wearing masks that are of animals. They're called the Menagerie. They are looking for her, and one of them is a defected member of that group, the Hawk. And the Hawk Hawk takes Anji, and she's going to turn Anji in to the kingdom for money. And so this book is Baby's first grimdark. It is YA grimdark, which clashes, and it does, because some of the things that happen in the story are so unnecessarily cruel and mean, but it's still trying to be a little like fun with it. You know what I mean? And I didn't enjoy that. Angie's 2 fingers are cut off, and like 20 pages later, she's having little jokes about it. That's a lie. She does there is consequences after the fact, but the moment that her fingers are cut off are treated with a very with seriousness and severity. But the rest of it, no. And I didn't enjoy it. And it's not making jokes. It's not comedic like The Devils, which I feel like is a very smart thing to do for this type of story. But I just did not enjoy what it was trying to do. All the two main characters, Anji and the Hawk, constantly argue, and it's not enjoyable to hear them argue. Mainly, the arguments are Anji is trying to ask something, and the Hawk says, "Shut the fuck up." And Angie's like, "Can I please talk?" And Hawk is like, "Shut the fuck up." And Angie's like, "Okay, but I want to understand about shut the fuck up." And that's most of it. And I hated that. I felt that was so not compelling, the opposite of compelling. I was so uncompelling. They're being hunted by the other members of the Menagerie, and I would expect that the other 4 members will be encountered at distinct moments. For example, in The Devils, the main princess is being hunted by her 4 cousins, and she encounters each of those 4 cousins at various distinct points in the plot, and they're each killed in those distinct points of the plot, and that feels very simple. And so I was expecting that for the Menagerie, but at least it subverted that and mixed it in a little bit differently. But either way, Hawk is defected, and she wants to get money for the resistance. The resistance of what? Exactly. It is a very nebulous sort of oppression that is happening in this world. And where's my notes? It's trying to depict and critique religious imperialism, government corruption, fascism. But it's all of that is very of our world, of our time, our like Earth. This is not set in Earth, and it doesn't, so it just feels transplanted on top without any attempts to modify it in any specific way. It is just Christianity, but it's not. It's the one path. I really like the world building of the 9 gods that were like the precursor gods, but also like if we compare to, for example, Game of Thrones, there's various different religions that are taking part, and the 7 have different types of religious worship, right? And like the high priestess, or right, yeah, high sparrow, yeah, the high sparrow is a very rigid depiction of the 7, but there are other people who do not follow that sort of doctrine, and so there's variety in the bad religions, right? Here it is just one bad religion, the one path, which is just Christianity. It's just Christianity. And listen, I'm all for critiquing Christianity, but it's just Christianity here. And I really like the 9 gods that are still like entrenched within like the common people's religion. I really like that part. But everything just felt like it was trying to do some critique, some depiction, and it didn't do anything to make it special. I have so much to say about this because I literally just finished this book and I was like pulling teeth to finish this book. There's a lot of fantasy traditions that are used within this book that are just mixed together and not have anything connected with each other. And I was like, why is there all of a sudden spiders coming out of the ground and attacking people? Why is this cocaine turning you into a monster the more that you take this cocaine? And what is all this? Why is the magic? What is the magic in general too? Because they barely explain the maxia as well. You can tell that it drains you, but how is it draining? We don't know. That doesn't tell them part of the story. Also, there is the king is not all powerful, and so when Anji kills a king, nothing changes, and so it creates this ethical dilemma that Hawk is taking Anji to turn her in and get money to be able to fund the rebels, which are called the Tide. And I think that's an interesting idea if it was implemented better. Because if this story eventually becomes a mentor-mentee relationship, but when it gets to that point, it feels empty because they've been arguing for the past, what is this, 300 pages, and I don't feel the change, and I feel the change between them was very abrupt, and so I feel like it was just structured weirdly. The basis of the story was very weird, and this ethical dilemma was discussed and rediscussed, and I think if we want to keep everything the same, stop focusing too much on the torture that Anji will go through for killing the king because the city wants to torture her, and she keeps focusing on that when I think the focus should be on not have the threat be torture, but the threat just be death. So it's not so it's more of a final thing, but not a like excruciating thing. Does that make sense? And that makes this conversation feel a little bit more nuanced. But it's not. It's just about her. She doesn't want to get tortured. But I feel like if it should be like, I don't want to die, but also I want to help the rebels, that might also be a really interesting conversation. But this book doesn't do that. I think it was written fine. I think it's competent, but I think that the structure of it and the building blocks are just scattered all over. They're the right building blocks. They're just kind of weird, you know? So unfortunately, that is the 2.5 for me. I've heard a lot of good things, but unfortunately, I just could not enjoy myself with this book. And it was the very last book that I read this month, literally a few hours ago. What's next? I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be reading either What Moves the Dead, T. Kingfisher, or The Seer of Shadows, Avi. Both are really small, and so I might just be able to read them both in one day. I'm not fully sure. But I think I will start What Moves the Dead because tomorrow I'll go into work and this will be the book that I'll be reading on Halloween. I think that's thematic. Yes, I'll be starting one of these two books. Oh, this one is sort of like Halloweenish. Yeah. I'll be starting one of these two books on Halloween, but I will be talking about it in my November reading and wrap up. So, yeah. I'm so sorry that I talked so much about these 13 books. This is really odd reading month. 3 5 out of 5s. 2 less than 3 out of 3 out of 5, sorry. And then like the rest of them are fine. And maybe 1 or 2 that are like really good, 4, 4.5 and stuff like that. So very varied, I would say. And I'm hoping that November, December deliver some really, really good books. I have some really, really interesting books lined up to read. And yeah, if you got this far, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to be passionate. And I'll see you later.